Good afternoon and welcome to the February 11th, 2020 Superintendent's Webcast. I want to remind everyone as we proceed through the webcast, there's a Go Soapbox link that you can submit your questions. We will try to answer as many questions as possible on the air. And also, as this webcast will be archived, questions that continue to come in, we will also answer those. Today's agenda consists of a quick update on the commissioner search, legislative update with Tracy Herman, our legislative liaison, an update on Impact Kentucky from Meredith Brewer, and also an introduction to the GoTeachKY Ambassador program, also from Meredith Brewer. Before I get into the update on the commissioner search, today's been a really good day here in Frankfort. We don't often say that sometimes, but today we honored and recognized the 219 nationally board certified teachers from the year of 2019 at a ceremony at the Administrative Office of the Courts. And that was the first time I'd had the privilege of being at that ceremony. It was a very moving ceremony. I know those 219 recipients are from all over the state and from all over all of our districts. And we want to encourage for 2020 to continue to have great participation in the Nationally Board Certified program. So I just wanted to mention that. That was a great event. Governor Beshear came by to hand the pins. Dr. Holliday was there as well, as he's on the board for MBCT. So I just wanted to share that with you. An update on the commissioner search. I'm going to actually read this to you so I don't get anything wrong, because there's been some changes. As you all know, the Kentucky Board of Education set the selection and hiring process in motion at the December 12, 2019 special meeting. Since that time, the board voted to create a request for proposals RFP evaluation team. The team met on January 30th to discuss and evaluate vendor proposals. Based on the outcome of this meeting, the team recommended to the full board at its regular meeting on February 4th that the department reissue proposals pursuant to KRS 45A for the solicitation of executive search firms for the education or commissioner search. In the meantime, and as everyone knows, the department created a survey asking all Kentucky residents what qualities they want in a new commissioner. I'm pleased to report that we've had over 3,500 responses to the survey. The survey closed, I believe, on February the 6th. The board is going to, as a result of the action on February 4th, the board will reissue the RFP for the superintendent, for the search firm to assist with the commissioner search. We think that will have a proposed closing date of February 28th. I say all that to say that the commissioner search has basically been delayed about 3 weeks because the responses received from the first RFP were deemed not to be adequate or responsive. And so we're going to reissue the RFP, and we will hopefully have a search firm named by March 1st. Once that occurs, the selected firm will begin the process of convening stakeholder meetings, advertising and collecting board input throughout April. And then from April through June, the search firm will be receiving, reviewing, and vetting applicants for the Commissioner of Education position. And throughout that time frame, the applicant names will be provided to the board, and it will select candidates to interview. I want to make sure everyone understands that even though the survey has closed, one of the tasks of the search firm will be to continue to solicit feedback from Kentuckians and obviously the State Board of Education about what Kentucky wants to see in the next Commissioner of Education. The board obviously will conduct rounds of interviews, potentially second interviews, conduct background and reference checks, and we hope have the next Commissioner of Education selected by July 1st. Because of this short delay, it could mean that date is pushed to August 1st. So I want to make sure we are keeping you updated. I know that's a very important task that the State Board of Education has in front of it, and I know that's something that's important to the entire state. Next, we have our legislative liaison, Tracy Herman, and she's going to provide a legislative update. We're in the full swing of the legislative session, and in the materials that you have at your link is a very long PowerPoint, and Tracy's not going to go over every slide, but we wanted to make sure that you had a reference point, and that's this PowerPoint is up to date as of today, and of course things could change as early as tomorrow morning with the session, but just know that as of February 11th, the PowerPoint is up to date and accurate, and you may want to go back in and look at the PowerPoint. She's not going to be able to cover everything, and of course we want to make sure we take your questions on the legislative update and the other agenda items that we have, so don't forget to go to the Go Soapbox link that's on your screen. Tracy, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Just to let you know, this is day 25 of a 60-day session. We've had 788 bills and resolutions dropped as of today. That doesn't include the floor action of this afternoon. Probably the most important piece of legislation that's been dropped so far is the budget bill, House Bill 352. And we have seen the budget review subcommittees in the House and the Senate begin to work through looking at agency budget requests and what the governor's proposed budget includes. But let's go ahead and jump into the rest of the bills, because there's a bunch, and I'm sure that everybody's excited about that. We'll start with Senate Bill 7. It is the annual school-based decision-making bill. It does make a change to the membership of the council, and it takes it to 3 parents rather than 2. It also changes some processes related to how OEA can forward and manage complaints and investigations. We also have Senate Bill 8, which is Senator Wise's follow-up to Senate Bill 1, the school safety bill from last session. It does update the definition of school resource officer and allows those officers to be armed in the classroom. Looking on, we see Senate Bill 14. We have several of these bills this session, and that is to increase the pension income exclusion from $31,000 to $41,000. It was reduced a couple of sessions ago, and now they're looking to change that back. Senate Bill 35 establishes an investigation of child dependency and neglect or abuse cannot be conducted by school personnel or other persons before a report is made to CHFS. This is a change in the current process. Senate Bill 42 requires any student identification badge that's issued to include contact information for 3 national crisis hotlines: domestic violence, sexual assault, and suicide. That legislation is moving very quickly through the process. Senate Bill 57, we fondly call the water bottle filling station bill. It amends provisions for construction process for having water bottle filling stations. Say that really quick 3 times. It will just apply to new construction moving forward, which we hope and think is an improvement. On Senate Bill 63, it gives local boards of education the authority to establish virtual high school completion programs. This legislation has been filed before. It's just for people 21 and older. Local districts have the ability to do so if they want to. Senate Bill 77 requires each public school to provide developmentally appropriate instruction on child abuse and child sexual abuse to students in all grades. This is a little bit different than what we've seen previously, because most of this legislation has been geared at providing that type of information and resources to faculty and staff rather than to students. Senate Bill 82 establishes the Kentucky Eating Disorder Council. The commissioner is a named member of that commission. Senate Bill 110, going to the next slide, looks at our annual income tax credit for tuition assistance. We have a couple of these bills, one in the Senate and one in the House. Senate Bill 114 requires the State Board of Education to promulgate administrative regulations and bylaws designating all athletic teams and activities and sports based upon the biological sex of the students eligible to participate. Senate Bill 116 establishes the Parents' Rights Protection Act. Senate Bill 126 is similar to House Bill 220, and it addresses the charter school authorizing training. Senate Bill 143 requires moments of silence or reflection at the start of each school day. Moving on to Senate Bill 147, this is the sports participation by a homeschool student. We've seen this legislation introduced several times before as well. Senate Bill 156 is on the Senate education agenda for Thursday at the moment, and as a result of a legislative task force looking at CTE issues and recommendations. Moving on to House bills. House Bill 9 requires African and Native American history instruction for middle and high school students. House Bill 22 eliminates corporal punishment in schools. House Bill 25 repeals charter schools. House Bill 30 is a bullying bill. We have a couple of these this session, and they require amendments to offering how you report incidents of bullying in local school districts and updates to behavior and model codes of behaviors at local districts. House Bill 34 permits districts to install stop-arm cameras on their buses. This is a big change from the legislation that was originally filed. It's now permissive rather than a mandate. House Bill 35, yet another pension income exclusion bill. We have 4 of those this session. Keep a lookout for the other 2 coming up. House Bill 37 requires schools to offer all students instruction in the visual and performing arts. House Bill 41 removes language that allows for all half-day kindergarten programs. So it would mandate full day, but there's no appropriation with the legislation. House Bill 50 updates the management audit processes that are currently in place for the State Department of Education. I'm going to skip House Bill 64. House Bill 87 requires completion of the FAFSA, say that really quick too, as a high school graduation requirement. House Bill 93 requires the KBE to include construction management at risk as a project delivery method. House Bill 96 deals with ASVAB and requires schools to test annually all students in grades 10 through 12. House Bill 101, it requires for voting information to be directed at schools to inform students about how the availability of pre-registration and registration forms and information regarding elections and voting procedures. House Bill 132, we've seen this many times before too, affectionately called the bathroom bill. House Bill 151 increases the minimum amount of advertising and bidding school building projects from $7,500 to $30,000. This is really to align this statute with a change that was made in another one that had already increased this level. House Bill 165 requires teachers to provide a minimum of 120 minutes per week for non-teaching activities. Also have seen that legislation many times before. House Bill 166 requires local boards to be offered health insurance at the same rate offered to district employees. House Bill 190 is Representative Bratcher's bullying bill, and that's already passed out of the House. House Bill 195 is the publication notice for school districts, and it allows them to post on the website rather than in the largest distributing newspaper in their circulation area. House Bill 200 reduces maximum class sizes by 3. We've also seen this legislation before. Ah, there it is, House Bill 212, another pension income exclusion bill. House Bill 220 is the other legislation about charter school authorizer training to eliminate it. House Bill 241 is designating the second Wednesday in February as Friskies Day. House Bill 243 replaces courses on a variety of religious texts to make sure that all religious groups and texts are included. House Bill 245, there's the 4th one, 245, pension income exclusion. House Bill 263, it's a legislation to increase participation in computer science courses by underrepresented groups. It requires KDE to submit another annual report to the legislature about how that would work. House Bill 266 is for military families and allows students who qualify to temporarily reside outside of the district if housing is unavailable. Going to go to 274. Requires the Transportation Cabinet to develop with KDE a risk reduction program for school bus operators. We already have a risk reduction program in place. House Bill 278 is the other ASVAB bill, which requires it to be included in state accountability. House Bill 281 requires KDE to develop informational materials on public health risks regarding sexually explicit internet content. We already have legislation in place on this, and the department is required to do so currently. House Bill 295 requires 25 minutes of student physical activity each day. We've also seen this legislation before. House Bill 296 we've also seen before too, and that would require comprehensive sex education instruction in all public schools. House Bill 301, Representative Duplessis filed a couple of years ago legislation to require a financial literacy graduation requirement. This would set it as a 1/2 credit course rather than a program or course. House Bill 312 passed out of the House Education Committee meeting this morning, and I am anticipating a floor amendment to eliminate this first requirement, which would allow a new enrolling school to immediately obtain all school records of the foster child without needing to first request the release of records from the prior district. That should be amended on the floor. Representative Meade has agreed to take that language out. The rest of the provisions of the bill, the department's very supportive of, especially the piece where that the caseworker has to accompany the foster child to be enrolled in the new district. House Bill 340 requires local boards of education to provide an annual salary supplement to qualified speech-language pathologists. We've seen this legislation before as well. House Bill 350 is a separate income tax credit for tuition assistance, our second scholarship bill. House Bill 366 establishes guidelines and operations and updates for the model school at Eastern Kentucky University. House Bill 381 establishes a fund for school resource officers and school counselors. House Bill 385 requires a conclusive vision examination upon a child's initial enrollment in kindergarten and 6th grade. Currently, we require a screener for both of those. House Bill 393 increases the dual credit tuition rate ceiling amount. It also takes the dual credit provisions out of the Work Ready Scholarship. House Bill 396 to require greater minority representation on screening committees for superintendent selection. Then we hit our resolutions. We have 3 that are pending. Urges KDE to create a task force to improve diversity in STEAM. That's House Resolution 13. And then we have House Resolution 35, which requires school districts and school-based decision-making councils and others to work to utilize in better organization on census efforts in local communities. And then House Committee Resolution 52 is the Preschool Program Task Force, and that's to study preschool programs. Of course, 352 is the budget bill. We see an increase in SEEK by 1%. We also see how the SEEK lapse would be distributed for the current fiscal year. The budget language included a $2,000 salary increase for teachers, additional funding for textbooks, additional $5 million for a preschool program for disadvantaged areas in the state. And it included $18.2 million in bond funding for the school facility upgrades required by the school safety bill. Then we get to the revenue measures. House Bill 351. 352 is very much needed to go along with 351. But this is the governor's proposed revenue collection increases. There's a new enhancement for the integrated tax system that should improve tax collection, increases on cigarettes and other tobacco products, limited liability entity tax, minimum tax is increased, sports wagering, which is also pending currently before the legislature, and that would increase revenues, and that's what part of the budget is built on at the moment.
Actually, Tracy, you did the impossible, and I think you went over every bill.
I think I skipped 2, but
This is a good reference for you. Just know that probably as of right now, this may be outdated in that today there were more bills that were introduced that were education related. And so can you just give us a few of the deadlines, if you can think of them off the top of your head, for the deadline for filing bills, and then also maybe walk through the budget process, particularly for new superintendents that may not have been through the budget process before, how that transpires in the House and then on into the Senate.
Sure. Let me just pull out my legislative calendar so I don't misquote the dates. Last day for new bills is on the 21st of this month. So that's the last day a legislator can request a new bill to be drafted. Now, as we know, there's a lot of ways to get legislation filed, and that includes amending another bill that exists or gutting a bill that's germane, allegedly germane by their own rules. The last day for new House bills to be dropped is supposed to be March 2nd, and for the Senate, that's March 3rd. Now, the last day of the session is still currently on April 15th. They have to adjourn by that date by the Constitution. We will have to see. They, of course, have built in a little bit of play over the last 2 or 3 weeks. We have the veto session, obviously, but they've left some dates open that they could come in and work, even if it's not a legislative day. And we've seen them build those dates into the calendar quite a bit over the last couple of years. So we still have plenty of time for lots of things to happen. For the budget process, so right now, as we know, the budget review subcommittees have already started their work. The Kentucky Department of Education will present the K-12, P-12 budget to the Budget Review Subcommittee on Elementary and Secondary Education next Wednesday. This week, the Cabinet will be up there, and several superintendents will be presenting on nickel equalization, which is a big topic this session. So for this week, we have a lot of other groups presenting. The universities are presenting all of their budget requests. They started last week. They're continuing this week. So for the next week or so, next couple of weeks really, we're going to see significant activity by the agencies in presenting information to the legislature about where things are, what was included in the budget, in the governor's recommended budget proposal, but then we're also going to be seeing what may have been left out and what's being asked about, questions that the agencies are receiving and even the governor's office is receiving about what things mean. We do see in this budget bill a big reduction in language. We usually see quite a bit of narrative that goes along with the budget bill that explains what are some of the priorities. That's really not included just yet. We usually see the House and the Senate build in a lot more language provisions around what can be not withstood and what's going to be included for priorities in terms of policy. So we'll see some changes to the budget bill, obviously, as it moves forward. We should have the budget out of the House probably by about day 40, day 41, something like that. We have seen it held much later than that, but we're hopeful that that will move out and move into the Senate's hands very quickly. The Senate has already started having their meetings as well. The Senate A&R Committee has already had presentations by the State Budget Director's Office, and they are also reaching out to state agencies to get feedback and information about the budget process. So what we'll probably see is what we normally see, and that is that by day 48, 49, or 50, we'll see the budget hopefully be out of the Senate's hands. We'll go to a conference committee, and then we will immediately adjourn into a free conference committee. That means all all bets off. You can look at everything, and we'll see committees appointed, a committee appointed by both chambers to address and discuss what the major issues and talking points are for the budget, and see what reconciliation they can do between their two sets of priorities. So that's probably what's coming up over the next 2 or 3 weeks. The most busy part of the session is about to really start.
Thank you, Tracy. I think that's very helpful, and particularly the process that it's upcoming that we will go through for the budget. Dr. Ellis, do we have any questions, legislative?
We do not have any questions at this time, so we can continue.
Feel free to submit your questions to Go Soapbox, even if you think about them as we're dealing with other issues, or if you're watching this webcast archived, you can also submit questions to Go Soapbox, and we will also provide an answer to those as well. So now I'm pleased to have Meredith Brewer with us, and she's going to discuss Impact Kentucky.
Wonderful, thank you so much. Last month I shared with you that we launched our new working conditions survey, which is called Impact Kentucky. This replaced the Tell Kentucky survey. We are in the final weeks of that survey, and so we wanted to come and make a final request to have schools complete that survey. Just as a reminder, you do need to have at least 50% participation at each school to be able to see the survey results at that school's level. Currently, we have over 35,000 surveys that have been recorded, which is wonderful, but we want to get over our 90% response rate that we had during the last Tell administration, so the last working condition survey. So we do want to encourage everyone to take this opportunity to share their voice and give their thoughts on the school's working condition. On January 31st, an email was sent to superintendents with schools that did not have an identified survey coordinator. That is the process by which we were able to identify a school representative to receive those anonymous codes. So superintendents were notified. Hopefully, all of those schools have been able to identify a school coordinator. We do have some schools that have elected to not participate because they had a staff below 10 faculty members, and so at that level, they would not have been able to view that data. It was a 10-person max or minimum, and so if they did not have over that count of faculty, they elected to not participate. And so if you have schools in your district that are not participating, then that is certainly understandable. But if you have any schools that have yet to participate, they are still able to do so and receive codes, but we are closing the survey on February 21st. If you would like to monitor the survey responses, the response rates, you can get access to that. The school survey coordinator has access to the platform as well. Superintendents and principals are able to also view response rates if they register through the Panorama platform. That link will be available in the PowerPoint presentation that will be shared. So if you want to register to see what those response rates are, then you can do so at that link. Again, you have to have a 50% participation rate for your school to be able to look at the data. If you have less than 50% at a school, they would be available. Those results would be incorporated into the district level results. And so those teachers who chose to participate, their voice would still be heard on that district level. But at the individual school level, those results will not be shared. So it is important to have at least the 50% response rate. Obviously, it's better to have closer to 100% response rate, as that will give the most accurate reflection of the faculty's thoughts on the school working conditions. If you would like additional information about the survey, you can visit the Impact Kentucky website, which is listed on the screen. If you have questions about the platform, so the actual functioning of taking the survey, you can email Panorama Education, which is the vendor for the survey this year. If you have questions about the survey content or any other support-related questions, you can email impactkentucky@education.ky.gov, and our product manager, Kathy White, will be able to respond to those questions for you. Do we have any questions from Go Soapbox about the survey?
We do not
Okay.
at this time.
And Meredith, before you continue to the GoTeach,
Yes.
would you, there's been a little bit of discussion, and I know we heard a few questions in our teacher advisory and our principal advisory group as to whether or not the working conditions survey in any way interacted with or impacted accountability. Could you talk about that?
Absolutely. So in the spring, students will be given a school safety and climate survey that is different than the Impact Kentucky Working Conditions Survey, which is a survey to be taken by certified educators. And so they both have climate questions, but the one is for teachers and this is Impact Kentucky and has nothing to do with the accountability system. So it is in no way part of the formula. Those results really are for schools and districts to take that data and make improvements for the faculty members to improve the school climate. The survey the school climate and safety survey will be administered as part of the accountability system to students, and that will be all assessed students 3rd through 12th grade will take that in the spring.
Thank you, Meredith. That's very helpful. I also want to reiterate the importance of our response rate. Kentucky has led the nation over the years in the response rate to what was before the TEL survey, and that has a lot of benefit to all school districts across the state to have a high response rate on these working conditions. And so to the extent as a superintendent and your staff you're able to assist in increasing that response rate, we encourage you to do so.
Absolutely. And if you have any questions, please do email. We're happy to assist. Again, the survey window closes February 21st. And so we want to be sure that everyone is able to access the survey and get their questions answered before that date. So the next exciting thing that I can share with you is about our GoTeachKY teacher recruitment campaign. We are thrilled to share that we have 12 teacher ambassadors that have been identified who are going to help us recruit the next generation of Kentucky educators. Our GoTeachKY program launched in August. We have a sort of growing social media campaign. We also have our GoTeachKY.com website where we have a lot of information on there. But the most exciting addition is our ambassadors. Those are in-service teachers across the state who have applied to help with this mission. They are available to present in classrooms and talk about the teaching profession. They can come and host college fairs. They can work a table at a college or career fair and talk about education. They are available to come to college campuses or to high schools or any school that you would like to have them talk. They are available and they are excited to come. They're also going to be supporting Educators Rising chapters in schools across the state. Our Educators Rising conference is actually coming up in March and will be held at NKU this year. And it is actually Educators Rising Week this week. And so on our social media platforms, in addition to our other different posts that we have, we're also supporting Educators Rising, which is a national group that is trying to promote the education profession. And so we will be doing additional posts this week for Educators Rising. And so our ambassadors are going to be supporting that work as well. If you would like to have an ambassador come to one of your schools, you can email Justin Edwards. He is the consultant in our office who coordinates those efforts. I do want to go back to the map. Hopefully there is an ambassador near you. If not, please do email us. We're happy to have someone from our office come and talk if we are not able to match up an ambassador with you. Or we can certainly see if the ambassadors are willing to travel. They really are excited, passionate educators, and we are thrilled that they are on board. Those goals for those ambassadors is to communicate with and inspire students in high school and college to consider teaching as a career. They're also going to communicate with their colleagues and current teachers about how to communicate the positive rewards and opportunities associated with a career in teaching. And then they're going to promote those central focus areas of GoTeach, which includes Educators Rising, as I mentioned, and the Teaching and Learning Career Pathway. If you do not have the Teaching and Learning Career Pathway in your school, in the schools in your district, and you're interested in learning more, you can contact our office, and we're happy to support. That is a career and technical education pathway that is available for teachers or for potential future teachers that we are happy to share more information about. So if you have any questions about GoTeachKY or our ambassador program, please do reach out.
All right, Dr. Ellis, do we have any questions?
We actually do not have questions at this time, but if anyone has any questions that come up as they're watching that webcast in any type of archived event, we will check it and make sure and respond and make sure if there's anything specific to get the word out to our superintendents. But we do not have questions at this time.
Thank you both, Dr. Ellis and Meredith, for the presentations. As you're watching the webcast, if you think of others in your school district that would benefit from watching the webcast, please forward the link to them. We want to make sure this information is widely disseminated. And also, if you think of a topic or issue that you think should be addressed on a future superintendent's webcast, please let myself know. Also, Dr. Ellis. That can be any issue that you think is appropriate or you think that others might benefit from around the state. We want to make sure these webcasts you can relate to them and that they are relevant to what you do every day. Thank you for what you do every day for our kids, and feel free to contact me directly. Several of you, I've reached out to the majority of you. You have my mobile phone number. If you have not received a call from me, you will be getting a call from me shortly. Have a great rest of the week.